If you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try convince you. Sorry. This was a quote from Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, who kept himself or who kept themselves anonymous. To start, we need to backtrack for a second to where the story begins. Bitcoin was created as a solution to the 2008 crisis, a perfect storm that unveiled the massive faults in the current system, but more on those in a moment. Although Bitcoin was originally designed as a peer-to-peer payment system and could still one day become that, right now it is seen as a store of wealth. I remember when Bitcoin was just $800. Today, one Bitcoin will put you back an easy 58 grand. Not so long ago, people were raving of its overvaluation at $20,000, a price many would love to see today. So how could one Bitcoin reach $1 million? First, we need to understand the basics of Bitcoin. Only 21 million Bitcoin can ever be mined. About 18,700,000 have been mined. Of those, it's estimated that 3 to 4 million are lost forever. So let's say 3 million are lost forever. That means 15.7 million are actually in active circulation. 2.3 million still need to be mined. About 900 new Bitcoins are mined per day currently. Once all of those are mined, that means although 21 million have been created, only 18 million will actually be in active circulation. And this means that Bitcoin is extremely scarce. If we were to divide Bitcoin amongst the world's population, each person could only have 0.002 Bitcoin. And if we were to take today's distribution of wealth all into Bitcoin, the top 0.001% of the world's richest people would only have 0.73 Bitcoin each. So it's rare, properly rare. But is Bitcoin better? Now I believe that Bitcoin is better as both a store of wealth and payment system, as opposed to our traditional stores of wealth and payment systems. And this is for a few key reasons. 1. Limited supply. People want to store value without fear of that value continually being diluted. 2. A digital gold, but much better than gold. It's weightless, borderless. There's no custodians. You have continual access. Consider in 200 years' time, when we're probably going to be traveling to space. This is built for the future. Trust. People no longer trust institutions. The decentralized and immutable nature of the Bitcoin blockchain means they no longer need to. Ownership and freedom. People want to own their own money and use it without restrictions. They're tired of having to get permission to do things with their money from banks. They're tired of paying exorbitant currency conversion fees for a digital change of a symbol at the front of a number. Tired of waiting 3 to 5 business days for zeros to be moved around on a computer. 5. This is money for all. Ever tried opening a bank account in another country? It's often far from easy. In some places of the world, many cannot even open an account in their own country. In fact, 31% of the world's adult population is unbanked. Bitcoin solves this. Bitcoin is for all. And 6. Power. People don't like how institutions have gathered and misused their power in the current system. In fact, 35 to 40% of all US dollars ever to exist ever in the world were printed in the last 12 months. Think about that for a moment. That means your hard-earned money has and should have become worth a lot less, and it's totally out of your control. It's time for the people to take back that power. Now that all sounds great, but we've all heard about the high transaction fees, the slow payment times, so I wanted to include a real-life example. The other day, I helped someone move about $300,000 of Bitcoin. Now let me give you a quick comparison. We moved the Bitcoin from one account to another in under 5 minutes at a cost of about $50 with no one else involved. Now if I did the same thing with a bank, to move these funds from one account to another would have taken 3 to 5 business days. If it was across borders, it would have cost over $3,600 in conversion fees, and the bank could have stopped that transaction at any moment and asked questions. So say that was your money. Which do you prefer? Institutional adoption. At some point, these institutions will realize this, and some will begin panicking, even doing complete 180s regarding their stance on Bitcoin. And this is not just a theory, this is happening. The wave has begun. Central banks are literally copying this blockchain tech. Similarly, private banks are also implementing this tech. Huge companies are now allowing onboarding to Bitcoin, like PayPal. Other big companies are investing directly in Bitcoin. Companies like MicroStrategy, which owns $3 billion in Bitcoin, or Tesla, who own $1.5 billion. Now these guys have investors to please, and they're regarded as some of the smartest individuals on earth. And it's not only the company's money they're playing with. Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, personally owns over 17,000 Bitcoin. It's not just Bitcoin. Think about the recent voter fraud scandals, about the tearing down of videos, sharing opinions that might not quite fit the narrative. Transparency? Freedom of speech? I don't think so. Well, what if I told you the tech to ensure transparency, decentralization, and true freedom of speech already existed? It does. Altcoins, also known as alternative coins, being alternative to Bitcoin, represent multiple other projects in the blockchain space. Bitcoin was just the first ever blockchain. Bitcoin is the forerunner, poster boy, reserve, and usually the gateway drug into this entire emerging industry, which in my opinion will completely change the world and for the better. And some of these altcoin projects are based entirely on creating decentralized and trustless voting, where no one needs to be trusted, no one needs to count the votes. The blockchain is immutable, meaning votes cannot be changed or removed. A better known altcoin called Ethereum is literally designed for having decentralized services and apps built on top of it. Think of every service or platform that you use currently. A decentralized version of it can and will be built. So this is not just about where to put your money. This ecosystem will change much more than just finance. If I was a young coder, I would certainly be focusing on languages used in the blockchain space. Entrepreneurs, you should be thinking about services that could benefit from the benefits of blockchain. Existing businesses, you should consider accepting cryptocurrencies and even utilizing blockchain tech within your business. And this is an important one. It does begin with the companies. The companies hold the key. If a company begins accepting cryptocurrency, it does two things. Firstly, it allows customers to pay in cryptocurrency. It gives them more products and services to buy with their cryptocurrency. But secondly, that company can now pay staff in cryptocurrency. In short, you have more people wanting to pay with cryptocurrency and more places where you can pay with cryptocurrency. Market cap. So where is Bitcoin now relative to other assets and services, and where does it need to get in order for us to achieve 1 million per coin? Well, here are the most valuable assets on Earth based on market cap. Gold, the world's largest traditional store of wealth, has a market cap of 11.5 trillion. Apple sits at 2.1 trillion and silver at 1.5 trillion. Bitcoin comes in next at just over $1 trillion. It's also the fastest asset to ever have reached $1 trillion valuation. It took just 12 years. Apple took 42 years, for perspective. So what's the point here? Well, Bitcoin already holds more wealth than both palladium and platinum put together. It almost holds as much wealth as PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa put together, the current major payment systems. I believe Bitcoin is and will become a lot more valuable than gold. I believe it will pass silver and then gold. I believe this because 1. It is a better store of value. After 21 million, it can never be mined again. Gold can still be mined and the supply diluted. 2. Gold is hard to transport and not very liquid. You can take your Bitcoin with you anywhere in the world tomorrow. You can sell it in under 5 minutes, or use it to buy things at an ever-increasing number of retailers and companies. 3. Bitcoin is backed by more than dollars or gold. Now that sounds crazy, but I believe it is. People with dollars in their pocket ask, but what is Bitcoin backed by? First off, what are your dollars backed by? It sure ain't gold. It's simply a promise from the government, who with the reserve have access to a printing press, by the way. The only reason dollars have value at this point is literally because people believe they are valuable. But what happens when that stops? It didn't do much for the Zimbabwean dollar. Now gold has value in that it is rare. Mining gold is also very energy intensive. The thing is it that hard to find? What if we just keep finding more of it? What if nearby planets are laden with gold? What happens then? Bitcoin has a value in that it is rare too, but like properly rare. It has a hard cap and can never be found or mined again. The mining process is also energy intensive. Couple that with the people's belief in Bitcoin as valuable, and in my opinion, you have a far rarer and more valuable asset. Yes, there are those who say, but it is just code. It is not real. It will never really be the major store of wealth or payment system. But let's take a look at what they said about the internet.
Well, as I mentioned, I have no desire to be a part of the internet because I feel like I'm so inundated with information all the time that I don't want more.
The energy argument. At this point, I want to address an argument that's been rearing its head, and that is that Bitcoin is so energy intensive that it is damaging the environment. As of writing, gold is trading near $1,800, and the price of 1 Bitcoin is around $58,000. The value of 1 Bitcoin is nearly equal to 1 kilogram of gold. So let's look at the energy and emissions of producing gold versus producing Bitcoin. Now in this, we compiled figures from a Norgate and Hake study, NS Energy Business, The Balance, and Digiconomist. Let's begin with greenhouse emissions. The greenhouse emissions to produce 1 Bitcoin, including fees, is 150 tons of CO2. The greenhouse emissions of producing a kilogram of gold are 27 tons of CO2. Bitcoin mining per year produces between 37 million and 54 million tons of CO2, while gold mining per year produces between 81 and 126 million tons of CO2. But mining gold also has a lot of other drawbacks not present with mining Bitcoin. For example, waste rock. Waste rock to produce a Bitcoin is 0, while the waste rock to produce a kilogram of gold is 1,270 tons. Also worth noting is that most estimates of Bitcoin's CO2 emissions are based on assumptions on how that energy is burnt. In 2019, one report suggested that 73% of Bitcoin's energy consumption was actually carbon neutral, mainly because of hydropower in major mining hubs like Southwest China and Scandinavia. On the other hand, in 2020, the CCAF estimated that the figure was just 39%. But even at that lower number, that's still almost twice as much as the US grid. And so this means that yes, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. And while that may be true, it does not mean that Bitcoin creates the equivalent carbon emissions. In my opinion, this argument is just one of many attacks on Bitcoin for other reasons. I mean, what about the energy savings that Bitcoin could bring about? If it's total greenhouse emissions we're concerned about, then go calculate the energy savings of removing every single bank and paper currency, powering the huge bank buildings, every employee driving to work, the number of trees cut down for paper currency, and then let's compare figures. So what happens if Bitcoin did reach the market cap of gold? The first thing to keep in mind is that dollars are becoming less and less valuable. They're printed like they printed half the total ever supply in the last 12 months. That means every day, Bitcoin is just becoming worth more and more of those old and so common dollars. But if Bitcoin did reach an 11.5 trillion market cap, then one Bitcoin would be worth $523,000 at today's value of $1. And if Bitcoin surpassed gold and got to a 21 trillion market cap, one Bitcoin would be worth $1 million. Now remember Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy? Well, he believes that Bitcoin could eventually see a market cap of $100 trillion, which would put Bitcoin well over 4 million per coin. But keep in mind that those estimates are based on the dollar being as valuable as it is today. And I wish to leave you with some cool quotes from Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, the first ever blockchain, and in my opinion, the biggest thing since the internet. It might make sense just to get some, in case it catches on. Governments stand no chance against peer-to-peer. Dead bitcoins are good bitcoins. If you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try convince you. Sorry.